4, 3. Hello and welcome to The Agenda with me, Graham Hughes, and I'm joined, as always, by Phil Moorhouse, over from a different bias. How's it going, Phil? You alright?
I'm fine, yes, I have cake.
You have
cheese.
Cake? Well, I've got
cake.
Coca-Cola in a really lovely shaped glass. It's kind of cool. So, although I'm not supposed to be drinking Coca-Cola because, you know, it's American. Anyway, before we start the show, let's just say a big shout out to Trip and Diz and Maggie Brinkley and Chris C and Anne Phillips. And it's really hard to read people's names now because it's just their user, it's their handle and not their name. So Sean, hi Sean, how you doing? If you'd like to join our friends in the chat there, all you need to do is hit the subscribe button and wait for about a minute, and then you can join into the conversation. Phil, did someone said this morning that you managed to get the names to display correctly, or were they saying?
Did I?
Okay, maybe.
If I did, it was an accident.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe it was that your live stream also had this problem where the names are coming up at the side of the screen, but it's the @ name, it's not the username.
Right.
Okay, so before we get started with what we're actually going to talk about, well, I suppose there's a little bit in this as well. We're going to acknowledge the super chat that has come in from Anatoly Dyatlov. Thank you very much for that, Anatoly, for the £5. What do you guys think of Corbyn's new party beating Labour and Reform? Mr. Moorhouse?
So I've seen a headline on Novara Media where Corbyn is claiming that his new party, which, do we still even know the name of? Everyone's calling it your party, but Zara Sultana, I seem to remember going off on one.
It's not your party.
Telling everyone to stop calling it
my
that.
Party.
But so Corbyn on Novara Media published today, presumably he did the recording yesterday, saying that it was now bigger than Labour. Now, he's making this claim on the basis that their newsletter is greater than the number of paying members that the Labour Party have. In reality, and I'm sorry for any fans of this new venture, but I'm sorry, he was in charge of the largest political party in Europe and seen as the only alternative to both Theresa May and Boris Johnson, and lost. He is not going to suddenly win from a park bench. That's not happening. He can take enough votes off Labour to allow Reform UK to run the country. And he was saying yesterday, and I had to agree with him, that his party will bring transformational change to Britain. Yes, it will. The full privatisation of the NHS, the abolishment of all our human rights, goodness knows what else. Certainly all the workers' rights that Labour are currently getting through Parliament, gone. We know that clean, secure energy, gone. Yeah, transformational. I completely agree with him. Transformational.
So they don't have enough votes to win anything, ever. But they do
can win the
have
odd
enough
seat.
to essentially help refuck. So this is the worst possible time for this to happen, and you know, according to Tucker's law, this is the time, of course, they're going to do this. And what bothers me is this party has nothing behind it. It is just a cult behind one person who has no clue what is going on. He seems more elderly and more dodderly by the hour. And this whole thing of like they were having a launch of the new party, and they said it's called your party, and then to have Zara Sultana, right, it's not called your party, and then Corbyn, right, well, let's have a poll. We should talk to our members and or our supporters, and we should find out from them what they want us to call ourselves. It's like,
but they might as well. The members are not going to decide anything else. They've already decided who the leaders are going to be. They've already decided what the policies are going to be. So it's not like the members will have no say over the run of this party any more than Reform UK members do. They might as well at least choose the name. I still go along with Party McPartyface. It's not mine, but that's quite frankly the best one they could come up with. Did you see Stats for Lefties on it? His was the funniest reaction. Did you see that? So because he gets quite upset. I say he, I think it's a he. I did have a discussion with him one time online. He gets really narky when you like challenge him.
Oh.
And so Zara Sultana goes, it's not called your party, to them as well. She was doing it to everyone, Politics Joe and everyone. And then they respond, right, well, maybe you should have made that clearer or perhaps come up with a name. And my issue with this is these people are supporting it. I get that they're supporting them because they think their policies are in alignment, but you're literally supporting people who have a stunning level of incompetence. We already knew that Labour were incompetent in 2019. That campaign was a complete hot mess. And yet, we also have to remember there were still organised people in Labour making it look better than it was. They put lipstick on the pig. We're now seeing them as they are, utterly incompetent. This was announced at the start of the last month, right? Zara Sultana came out with that. We saw from those leaked WhatsApps that Jeremy Corbyn wasn't even asked. Zara Sultana announces this joint venture with Jeremy Corbyn. He hadn't even been asked about it. There was a right to do between, people around Corbyn and people around Sultana. Because why have you announced this? You didn't even ask Jeremy what the hell's going on, right? So he's been bounced into this. Because he was too weak to say, I haven't agreed to this. Because of that, you can't have any sort of calling out of people who are in your cult. Then he's been bounced into it. So he didn't even want to do it by the looks of it. Or if he did, he wanted to have at least discussed it. That would have been nice. So it was announced effectively at the beginning of last month. Then they had that official launch a week yesterday, wasn't it? It was Thursday before yesterday. So what were they launching? What did they launch? What did they announce? Because we know what sort of party it is. We know who's leading it.
A website.
All they had to announce was the name. That's the only thing we don't know about it already. We know everything about it. Their policies were written in the 19th centuries. That's fine. They're well established. The people running it, we know who they are. There's not going to be any discussion about that. We know there's nothing about this party we needed to know other than its name and maybe logo and what colour rosette they'll have.
Why did Zara...
They didn't mention any of those things.
Why did Zara Sultana run for election on the Labour manifesto that she manifestly disagreed with?
Because they're dishonest, these people. They know they couldn't get... None of these people could have got elected independently until they've built up enough of a name. So the reason she's doing this now is she reckons, particularly she's Birmingham, isn't she? She reckons Birmingham might not be great stomping ground for Labour, so she's got a chance of winning her own seat independently now. Corbyn obviously did. So there's a few of them now. I mean, that's the nature. The nature of our fragmented voting now allows some people, once they've already used and abused the Labour name to build up, because you still couldn't have an independent genuinely come through now without attaching themselves to something that's already well known. But that's, like the so-called Gaza independents, they still would have got nowhere without Jeremy Corbyn, right? So he's traded on Labour and then they've traded on him. And that's why you've got this dual role. This party is not led by Jeremy Corbyn, don't fool yourself. This party is led by Zara Sultana. Jeremy Corbyn wasn't even out. He was told. He was told he was going to do it. Yeah. She's just using his cred. In a few years' time, when she feels it's in a decent enough place for her, he'll be allowed to go back to his allotment and she will just front it. That's what will happen.
Yeah. I could definitely see that happening. It's just kind of depressing, really, that we're going through this again. It feels like Trump. It feels like Trump take two. The way we thought he was gone and then he came back and we're like, oh, for God's sake, he had his chance, he blew it, and now he's back again. And the same thing has happened with Corbyn. And it's the same kind of, like cult mentality that surrounds him as well, that makes people think...
Well, it is. Because I would point, there'll be some people in the chat who really aren't enjoying it. They'll think, no, I'm supporting Jeremy Corbyn. What I would say is just look at the reactions, right? So, people obviously take the piss out of every Labour leader there's ever been. You won't see extreme reactions from me. If I think it's unfair, you might see a kickback. You won't see an extreme reaction from me. People take the piss out of Starmer now. People took the piss out of Corbyn before. They took the piss out of Miliband. No great extreme reaction from me on that one. You even criticise some. You even point something out that is objectively true, like the fact all they had to do was say they can't even agree on the name of their party, and that's all they had to announce.
Yeah.
Something like that produces a massive, massive backlash.
Well, yeah, that's it.
That's the sign of a cult. You cannot even criticise the leader. I've actually had Corbyn fans, and I've just said to them, "Okay, you agree with him. That's great. Tell me 3 things you disagree with him on," and they can't because they can't allow. Because that's a cult, by the way. That is a cult.
Yeah.
Where you cannot actually, or if they try, it's because he's too honest. He's too honest.
He's too. It's like going for the job, isn't it? That I'm too good for this job.
Yeah.
It's my modesty holds me back. Thank you very much to Antoli.
We just say Anatole to begin with.
Yeah, Anatole.
This might happen a bit.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. What is the alternative? Labour are finished, and this is
easy. Reform UK. Reform UK are the alternative. Which you want? Because Labour aren't finished, by the way. Corbyn has the power to significantly weaken them. The alternative is Reform UK. Pick your poison.
Yeah.
It's really that simple.
But
pick your poison. Because I'll tell you something. If at the end, now I've made it really clear, by the way, this is a problem of our voting system, right? It's now, the voting behaviour is so fragmented that the voting system cannot cope. But at the end of the day, Corbyn and Sultana aren't doing this to bring better times to Britain. They're doing it. They know full well that this is allowing Reform UK. Their aim is the I told you so gambit. They want to say, I told you so, I told you so, I told you so. I'm going to say this. Anyone who supports this venture is supporting Reform. And when Reform UK come in and they trash all your workers' rights that Labour brought in, they trash all the Sure Start centres that Labour are bringing back in, they trash work on clean, secure energy, which Labour are bringing in, all of this stuff, above inflation pay rises, all of this stuff, when that gets trashed, it's your fault. That's all I'm going to say. Because you ask what the alternative is, that is politics. Politics is about decisions. It's not about what you want, it's about what you least oppose. If you vote in a way that damages Labour's electoral chances, which is fine, you can use your vote in any way you like, you do not get to complain what are the obvious consequences of that. Jeremy Corbyn today, or yesterday, but today published, saying that his party is bigger than Labour. What is that designed to do? It's designed to get you to believe he can win power, but he can't win power. He's lying to you. He is lying to you. And if you decide to believe those lies, despite all the very obvious evidence to the contrary, you are responsible for those consequences. And I will take no shit from anyone after the next election. If it goes badly, I will take no shit from anyone.
Okay.
If you do not like what comes.
Okay. Can Labour take some of the blame for its
absolutely
appalling record in the first year or so?
No, the record's really good.
Is it?
Communication of the record's really good.
Okay, so let's talk about the cons then. Let's get into this, right? So they have appointed a former editor of the Sun newspaper, who was there, presided over Page 3. He's worked at the paper since the early 90s, so he was there during the whole Hillsborough debacle where he was happy to work for this organ. And we talk about the revolving door between the Tory party and the tabloid press. And here's Labour doing it with someone who is a dinosaur. He looks like the guy from The Hills Have Eyes. He is an absolute nightmare on every level. And it turns out there's actually a criminal conviction. He has. He's actually.
Well, that's a more serious issue. That's a more serious. But in terms of the other issues,
that's to do with him being part of the Sun newspaper. Because they printed an image of a victim of sexual assault.
But just so that's a more serious issue. But just in terms of your first issue. So who's the mayor of Liverpool at the moment?
Well, the big one. There's Joe Anderson, and then there's
No.
There's the new one called Joe Anderson. Right. Who's replaced the old Joe Anderson.
Joanne
Anderson and Steve
Rotherham. The mayor of Liverpool,
Steve Rotherham has written a letter saying, why have you let this guy be the chief of communications for the government, not just for the Labour Party?
They're up for corruption charges. They're being charged with corruption, bribery and corruption.
Steve Rotherham isn't.
No, hang on. But is he the mayor of Liverpool?
He's the Metro Mayor. He's the Metro Mayor of the Merseyside region. Oh,
So are you saying
Metro
he
Mayor.
hasn't worked with the one who's been
No,
charged?
no,
didn't?
not with Chippy Tits, Joe Anderson. He's separate to that. So Chippy Tits, he was
How
in.
is he separate?
He
How is he
was
separate?
in with Derek Hatton and all of the militant lot from the 80s, and
Yeah.
same sort of corrupt cronyism.
It was
But
in Labour, wasn't it?
Steve
It's in
Rotherham.
Liverpool Labour.
Yeah, but it's a different jurisdiction, isn't it? It's like
So-
blaming Starmer for what's happened in Liverpool County Council.
Or blaming
City Council.
someone who was the editor of The Sun long after Hillsborough for what happened with Hillsborough.
No, but he was working for the Sun from
Yeah.
1990.
And Steve Rotherham was working for Labour.
Hillsborough happened in 1989.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and Steve Rotherham wasn't working for a party that nationally was incredibly corrupt, and he wasn't working
but
for the
locally
local. He wasn't working for the
Locally
local
was.
party, which was actually corrupt.
He was.
No, he wasn't.
He
He was
was.
part of the party. He was part of Liverpool. No, he's sort of part of the Labour Party.
Yeah, but you're just trying to compartmentalise it, but in a way you won't allow the Sun to be compartmentalised.
Yeah, because at
the end of the day,
the Sun
either-
is an anathema to the people in Liverpool. And
I get that,
you'll look at
because
this
of-
really logically and say, logically, it makes sense to get.
I haven't
someone
even mentioned the logic yet. The
a
logic,
tabloid
as I explained to you
journalist.
earlier, if you want, the whole point of this job is to get, because Labour are doing shitloads of really good things and not many people know about it. Why? Because the communication's bad. And what do you need to do? You need someone who's really good. How did Nigel Farage ever grow in the first place? It wasn't because of his politics. Loads of people had his politics. You know, that dickhead Nick Griffin had the same politics, worse politics in many respects. A certain type of journalist would have preferred to be reporting on Nick Griffin, but Nick Griffin was crap at sensationalism. Nigel Farage was good at it. You need someone who's good at sensationalism. Who's better at sensationalism than someone who ran a tabloid newspaper? And I'm sorry, there are no good tabloid newspapers.
Tabloid newspapers are things of the past. Only people over the age of 50 read newspapers anymore.
You're wrong.
And social media, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube,
Who are the biggest on
ways
social
of
media?
getting things out to people, which Labour aren't using at all. And now they've got
but
some
they-
dinosaur in who's
well-
going to be like, oh, I've got a great idea for a headline.
No,
Let's put a
but
girl
that's where
with
you're
a
getting it
tits out
wrong.
on the front.
You're thinking of these newspapers as being newspapers. They've long since not been newspapers. They're online. They are the biggest. They are the biggest sources of. They're online, and they are the huge. They have a huge. The physical newspapers, but that's not how they do their stuff these
But he
days.
cut
The
his
Sun
teeth
is
in
massive.
physical newspapers. He didn't cut his teeth doing.
But he also learned.
the
He is the
online
one who
stuff.
developed their social media.
But he is.
And also, it's the same thing. Like,
See,
if
this is what I mean
I
about using
specifically-
logic over emotion. And I understand the point of like, oh, well, he might have been a better guy for the job than Tim Allen, who was an advisor to Tony Blair until 1998. However, they've got this baggage that is naturally going to upset Labour voters in Liverpool. Straight off the bat.
Okay.
Straight off the bat.
All right.
So you're going to lose some
And?
voters there for no good
Right.
reason. It was
When you
the
say no
only
good
person.
reason,
Yeah.
it's to win many more votes elsewhere.
Do you think they will? Do you think they're going
Yes.
to change their comm strategy as a result of this successfully?
This is a change of the comm strategy. this is a huge change of the comm strategy. It's only for the government, not Labour itself. I wish Labour. Now, actually, I do know Labour are doing some more things, but it's still not joined up. But the problem is, at the moment, I can rattle off loads of things that Labour are doing that are really popular. But the reason why they're not gaining the popularity is because people don't know it's even happening. You don't even know a lot of it, and you're paying attention to politics.
Yeah.
How can you
'Cause
not
they're
know
so
what's
shit
in
at
there?
telling anyone?
Well, that's what I mean. So
Absolutely
they've got
appalling
someone
at
who's
it.
not shit at telling people.
How do we know? How do we know? Like,
Because
this
that was
guy's been
literally
given
his
a job,
job.
and all that we know so far about him is
Is he's
he
really
has
good
a
at
criminal
it.
conviction for sexual
Well, that's-
offences.
that's-
And
that is something
he
which
was
you
the
could-
editor
should-
of a newspaper that routinely had a woman with her tits out on page 3 while he was editor, and he also worked at the paper during the years in the 90s when it turned out that the Hillsborough stuff
Which
was
he
a
had
load of
nothing to do with it.
bollocks. No, but he was still
He had
like
nothing to
part
do
of
with
a
it.
newspaper. He was writing.
Rotherham was part of Labour.
Happy to write for a newspaper that. Sorry, did Labour write a load of bollocks about Hillsborough? Did they blame
No, they
the
swindled the
fans?
people of Liverpool. The Labour Party swindled the people of Liverpool.
Was that Labour? Was that the Labour
Yes.
Party we have now?
That was Labour.
The guys who were running that in Liverpool in the 90s aren't running Labour now, are they?
No, but
Whereas
it's the
this
same
guy was
organisation.
writing for the Sun in the early 90s, Phil.
But he wasn't writing. He wasn't doing that.
Are you going to try and
Wasn't doing
explain
that
this to
stuff.
every Scouser? Because they're just going to say, no, Labour are dead to me now
because
of this. And I'm like,
Yeah, but because
why?
you're having to
Why
draw
give
false
it up?
equivalence. You
I'm
won't.
sorry, but this is the way people are.
Okay, but it's the way people are in one place that overwhelmingly votes Labour.
Yes.
Like, strategically, what about the people who might vote Reform UK next time? They're choosing between Labour and Reform UK. What do they think?
I think that they'll be just as happy
No,
with
you-
an effective
no.
comms officer who
Yeah, if you could get
didn't
one.
have
Who is it? Who
all
can we
these
get?
skeletons in
Name one.
the background.
Name one. Name one.
Tim Allen.
With driven Pratt Rex. No, because they are really a dinosaur.
Well, he was there in advising Tony Blair. He seemed to do a pretty
Yeah,
good
but
job of
the media was completely different then.
Yeah,
completely
that was
different.
the only other person on their shortlist. It was a very short shortlist, Phil.
Because there's not many people that have got the proven skills to be able to sensationalise government achievement, or indeed any achievements. Like what the Sun have been, and I know the attitude to a lot of people with the Sun. I mean, it's one of the ones I don't even read. Like if a story is if genuine exclusive is broken by the Sun, I still wait for someone else to report on it.
Yep.
But nonetheless, it has been the people who have run the Sun are provably the best political campaigners in the country because they've actually managed to steer government policy.
More than Farage.
Like, you
more
know
than-
what? Let me draw something that you will agree with, because I know you've agreed with this in the past. You know when Corbyn was leading Labour and the Corbynites kept telling people, well, don't vote Labour if you don't like it then, piss off. That wasn't smart, was it?
No.
You want more people to vote for you. That's how
Yes.
you go from being in opposition
Yes.
to government. You get people who were voting against you to vote with you, right?
Yes.
You create
You
more
get
allies.
people on side.
So this is the similar sort of thing. You're talking about someone who is very good at getting people on side with simple messaging. Now, if he doesn't do the job, he don't do the job. Now, the issue
One-
you're
one
mentioning there
good-
about his conviction, that is
Yeah.
a different matter. That is a different matter. That is
it
an
shows
argument.
an
But the
lapse
other
of
side of
judgment.
it is
But-
not an argument.
But Phil, this week, Clive Lewis was on the newsagents, I think he was on, and he was talking about Labour and the problems that Labour's been having with the comms and with the policies and everything else. And he said, one thing I'll say for the Tories, at least they look after their own. And while Labour are pursuing those refuck voters, they are leaving everybody else behind. And people are going to turn away. They'll vote for the Lib Dems, they'll vote for the Greens, they'll vote for Jeremy Corbyn's new party in droves. And that could be the
won't.
difference between Labour winning a majority in the next election and them winning a minority government that they've got to share with the
That
Lib Dems or someone.
no, that's they're not getting it right. But what you're saying is also wrong. That's not the case.
But before we go on, I've got loads of super chats that I've been ignoring because we've been deep in debate. First of all, we've got Chris C. Thank you very much for the £5 super chat. That's very generous. Thank you. The House of Lords have rejected several parts of the Employment Rights Bill, specifically 0-hour contracts and employees having rights from day one.
yeah, that's the House of Lords.
Um,
The government just turned it back.
Yeah, I hope they do. I hope they do. Have they done it already? Have they already knocked it back?
But they can't. They're in recess.
Okay. Right. Durhamite Blue just dropped £2 the super chat for one. Thank you very much to Durhamite Blue. Chris C, £2 super chat. Labour is no longer the party of ordinary people.
Right, I'm going to have to tackle that one straight away.
Okay,
Sorry.
all right. I've got
That
some
one.
more, but you
So,
tackle that. Go on.
Yeah, I know there's more, but this one, you can't just read them out and not answer them.
Sing along with
So,
people.
First of all, just today, do you know what they've announced just today in this no longer the party of the ordinary people? Do you know what the
knows.
breaking news is today?
Don't know.
Whitehall interns, 100% of them from now on will be from working class backgrounds.
Oh, that's good.
This party that's no longer the party of ordinary people. They're not going to accept any internships from upper middle class people. You've got to prove that when you were 14, both your parents were from what is considered working class backgrounds. That's just today. That is literally just today. This is a completely false narrative. The Employment Rights Bill has massive boosts to employment rights, obviously, including the name. The Renters' Rights Bill, because again, working class people mostly rent, right? That's huge. You've got the more secure energy. There's all sorts of reasons for going for net zero, but one of them is for making energy cheaper for ordinary people. Massive house building program, which includes as a particular focus on affordable and social housing. You've got, we've had pay going up above the level of inflation for people on minimum wage, people on benefits, people on state pension, public sector workers. Like, someone who looks at all that and then says Labour's not the party of ordinary people, I don't actually think you know what an ordinary person is. I think you might be getting your information from Charlie Mullins, is what I would say to that. Because you're having to ignore all of that.
But people don't know this. You just asked me if
yes,
I knew the breaking news of what Labour are doing today, and I had to say no. Even though I did the show this morning about Trump and his fucking tariffs, and, you know, I keep abreast of the news all the time, a little bit obsessed, and I didn't know. Like, this is Labour's problem, and it keeps coming back to this point about you can make a good argument logically that logically this should work and that should work and people should realise this, but people don't vote logically.
Yeah, I get that.
People don't form their opinions logically. They do it emotionally, and Labour are so shit at this, Phil. And like, I've got another super chat here which is relevant with Paula Thomas. Thank you so much for the £5 super chat. That's very generous. Thank you.
But there's a difference between Labour communicating what they're doing and people saying that Labour aren't doing a particular thing when they are. If you're going to be politically interested, you should take the time to find out, surely.
Okay, good things like throwing trans people under the bus. We can't argue with that, Phil. They totally have.
I've literally made no attempt to. But if you're going to try and say that you think there's a party that's going to get, basically your choice in an election is which is better, because which alternative isn't going to do this as well.
Right, I've got the rest of the message to read as well. Like trying to throw disabled people under the bus, which they did try and do. They tried to take $5 billion away from people on benefits who were getting it because they have disabilities. Like throwing poor families under the bus as well.
Right,
so,
okay.
Right, this is my comment. This is Paul's comment, but I kind of agree with it, Phil.
But the other two are objectively wrong. So in terms of the disability thing, they were going to remove some people from PIP, right? Which I was really clear at the time was the wrong thing to do. However, that is not throwing disabled people under the bus, because the vast majority of disabled people were actually getting improved payments and improved support.
They were taking
so what you should be saying is
pounds away for it, and that was making.
But the rest were getting more.
So they were spending more than $5 billion on helping the rest of the disabled people. Which disabled people were getting targeted then?
There's now been an increase. There's effectively now been an increase of billions. So
since it got knocked back, but they wanted to
even before
save $5 billion. That was the headline figure.
No. It was to save in order to spend more. The actual budget hasn't come down.
Yeah.
So they thought in their mind,
not on
they thought in their mind, and they were wrong about this. I was clear about that. They thought in their mind, they were trying to squeeze some people who didn't need it as much to give more to people who did.
They did not explain that to anybody. All they did was make my friends who are disabled feel really, really anxious. Some people who were suffering from anxiety made their mental health problems even worse by saying, hey, in a couple of years' time, we might not be giving you any money. What are you going to do then, eh?
Yeah, but that is because not only were they bad at communicating, that was actually a bad policy. But again, you go through these things.
Yes.
Throwing trans people under the bus, the alternative will be worse. Throwing disabled people under the bus, only partially true, and the alternative will be... The government, the Tory government, before them, had already earmarked way bigger cuts. Labour stopped those. Those cuts were due to come into effect last autumn.
Yeah, but if the alternative is the Tory party, as far as a lot of trans people are concerned, the Tory party were better than how Labour have been in their first year. At least with the Tory party, well, there's coalition. They had gay marriage was brought in. And also, they were moving towards the Gender Act, which never got through in the end because of the billionaires putting all their money into anti-trans sentiment online, etc., etc. But for a while, even Theresa May seemed quite pro-trans rights. Theresa May.
Yeah.
And now you've got Keir Starmer.
Okay, so where's the Conservatives at the moment saying that Labour are transphobic? Where are they?
I don't see that at all.
Where are they in Reform UK?
I don't see the Tories
So
anywhere
come the
at
next
moment, 'cause they're
election,
even more useless
come the next
than Labour.
election, tell me how trans people. And I understand basically if trans people will say, well, I'm not going to
People
vote
are
Labour, by
leaving
way.
the country. Phil. They're
yeah,
leaving the country
but-
because they can't get the medication. They can't get the
Yes, I
HRT.
understand that. I've done videos on this myself. I'm really clear that this is the wrong policy and the wrong strategy. But what I'm trying to ask you is, how do things get better for trans people with Reform UK Tory government?
Well, it doesn't.
Right. For disabled people,
But
because
for,
they were
for
going to be
people who are
facing...
trans who are going to leave the country now because they can't take 3 years of not having their HRT.
Of course not.
What difference does it make that it's a country that they're no longer part of because of Labour?
But you're also but you're also talking about, like, you've got to talk about the holistic thing. Are you going to say you want a reform? What government do you want after the next election?
I'd like a much more progressive Labour government.
Sure, but
that actually
of the
listens
choices,
to its members
of
and
the
looks after
choices.
the poorest and most disenfranchised,
Okay.
most vulnerable in society.
Of the choices. Well, no, again.
So I want the Labour Party that we've got now. I just want the people in the Labour Party, the vast majority of which are reasonable, nice people. I want them to have more of a say instead of it
Corbyn
lurching
supporters will say the same thing. Corbyn supporters say exactly the same thing. But the issue is, again, when
I've
you
never
use,
heard a
when you
Corbyn
use
supporter
a
say something
phrase,
so reasonable.
Graham, when you use a phrase about the most vulnerable, you're again feeding into a narrative that Labour is shitting on the most vulnerable, when in actual fact there are some people, and I've been really clear about it, it's wrong policies and wrong strategy have shit on, but the vast majority of the most vulnerable people have massively benefited. Tens of millions of people. There are like 16 million people in poverty in this country.
Yes.
I mean proper poverty, by the way, not as rich as others, right? And the vast majority of those have all gained.
In the last year.
Literally the last year.
From what specifically?
Right. Greater income. Straight. That's the first thing, because you can't do anything else until legislation's passed.
Has income gone up?
Income's gone up in real terms. Yes.
Went up a few years ago.
More than inflation. That's what real terms means. It has gone up more than inflation
not
in the
now.
last year.
I mean, like when it was 11%. Because.
What do you mean?
Well, because
you can't ask them to go back in time and rewrite the Tory budget.
no, but if you know,
From
10
when they
years
came
ago,
in,
you got a
people were better
tenner for an hour's work,
Yeah,
right? That tenner would have got you 5 pints of lager. Now that same tenner would get you 1.5.
Yeah, but you can't ask them to turn back the clock. People voted a Tory government. There's consequences for that. Compared with when they came in, people are better off than when they came in. And that's without all the extra rights that are coming online now, which are going to make them even better off. Because the Employment Rights Bill doesn't just improve their working environment, it improves their pay. It gives them better bargaining power for pay.
But are people feeling this? Because
No, they're not, because no one's telling them about it. In America, you compare with Trump.
Well,
Are
waste of
people
money.
better off in America under Trump? Are people
no.
better off in America
No.
under Trump? Are the eggs any cheaper?
No.
No, but his supporters still think he's marvellous. Why?
Yes, they do.
Because he keeps talking about how great he's doing.
Yes, 'cause he
Every
knows
day,
how to
how
play
great he's
them.
doing. That's the difference.
He knows how to play them like
but
a
that is not the
cheap
world
violin.
we're supposed to live in. Ordinary people, you can argue about ordinary people have, they don't see it. I get that because they're not communicating it. But people who want to pay attention to politics should be finding out what's really happening.
But Labour
Like,
make
what's the
it so
point?
difficult. And
It doesn't matter.
Everyone
What?
gets a vote. They're over 16 now. Everyone
What
gets a
is the
vote,
point,
whether they
though?
pay attention to politics or not. So
But-
not
but
only do you
what
have to
is
get the people who, kind of pay attention to politics on side, you've also got to get on side the people who don't pay attention
But
to
what
politics.
is the point of paying attention to politics, spending time out your day to pay attention to politics, if you then add to the level of misinformation?
But where are we adding to the misinformation?
By talking about the most vulnerable people suffering under Labour when the opposite is true.
No, but
You're
this
talking
is the way
about some
people
groups. I'm not
feel.
saying we abandon those groups, but you're talking about small groups. The vast majority are benefiting, right? What you should be saying, if you were saying not enough of them are benefiting, that's a completely different thing to add into a narrative of saying that they're not backing up working class people, which is completely untrue, or the most vulnerable, which is completely untrue.
Imagine a world in which the most vulnerable are being looked after by Labour a bit better than they were under the Tories. Fine, okay? But at the same time, there is no reason whatsoever, and you've acknowledged this, for Labour to go after trans people, to go after the disabled in the way that they've gone after them, and ended up making people's lives much demonstrably worse, while not making any political capital on the people whose lives they've made better. So that's a waste of time and money in political terms. I mean, obviously for the people who are benefiting, that's great. But it's just like their inability to get this message across. And I will be very, very surprised if this clown from the bloody Sun newspaper comes in and he goes, right, I can sell, because I don't think they should have got someone from a tabloid. I think they should have got someone with a background in advertising for razzle dazzle. And this is what the Tories did in the 1980s. They got Saatchi and Saatchi to run their campaigns.
Yes.
ABC, always be campaigning. Labour, and they said this to me when I went to visit Labour Digital a few years ago, and they said, we only do the positive outreach stuff, where we actually proactively making videos and making content and making memes. We only do that for the 6 weeks of every 5 years that we're having a run up to an election. And I'm like, oh, for God's sake. So I don't think this was a clever appointment. I don't think it's going to work. And then on top of that, you've got the toxic side of it, which is the Sun, which has very, very negative connotations for half the country, I'll say.
And
everyone in Liverpool and anyone who's a woman.
It doesn't work for it doesn't work for the Sun.
He did. He was the editor.
He was.
Yeah, but
it's not working for them now.
I was an axe murderer. I'm not anymore. Well, technically, you're still guilty of those murders.
No, because the offence, right, is the offence of the Sun is Hillsborough. Yes. Where's his name by any of the Sun's Hillsborough reports?
Because he saw what they reported.
Okay.
And a year later, he thought, I'm going to sign up to write for that newspaper.
Okay.
Lots of people didn't.
But did he write about? Did he slander the victims of Hillsborough?
I don't know. He just worked for a Murdoch, a Rupert Murdoch, who's done more damage to this country than any other human being in the history of time.
And how has he done that damage?
And he's decided to work for this horrible, dirty digger from Australia who lives in America, doesn't give a shit about this country, just runs endless, campaigns against individuals and organisations he doesn't like the smell of. And this guy signed up to work for that particular organ.
Yeah, he did.
So, he's got no morals. He's got no.
Why? You don't need morals. You need someone who's good at the job.
I
morals
think
come from the politicians.
To get through to people who think about politics in an emotional way, in a, not necessarily in a logical way, but being more emotionally driven in what they want to vote for, what they want to see from their Labour Party, you're going to have 500,000 scousers who voted for Labour saying, this isn't what I voted for. Which is exactly what Steve Rotherham wrote in his fucking letter.
So,
by the way, sorry, before we go on, I'll let you come back, but I just have a bunch of super chats to get through because we've been too engrossed in conversation. Rotherham was at Hillsborough, says Sphere.
Yeah, and this other guy wasn't.
72, STFU Phil, don't know what that stands for. I do. And then we've got, oh my God, there's so many of them. Hang on. I'm going back through them. Resloy. 8-12. Everyone's got names now like they're robots. My life hasn't changed under Labour. Change my ass. So again, someone who doesn't feel like their life has changed under Labour.
He's talking about someone who's interested in politics, and you're going to say, I don't know what your life experience is. Maybe you're a billionaire, but all I can say is, if you're a public sector worker, your pay's gone up in real terms. If you're on minimum wage, your pay's gone up in real terms. If you are a pensioner, your state pension's gone up in real terms. If you are a worker in a company where your employer is brilliant, that's great for you. But if you're not, then from next year, you're going to have way more rights at work. If you work for an employer that is a bit sniffy about you being able to join a union, that's going to disappear, right? If you're working in a company where they really try to stop you even balloting for strike action, while they're also shitting on your pay, that's going to disappear immediately this autumn. If you are renting, then you're getting more rights later this year or next year, whenever it gets phased in, because that legislation still passing through Parliament. If you pay energy bills and you struggle with it a bit, they're going to get cheaper. So again, people have got to understand there is a difference between ordinary people who don't pay attention to politics. That's where the communication side comes in. Then you've got people who are watching a stream on politics. If you're going to spend some time paying attention to politics, why don't you think you should try and find out the difference between truth and perception? That's my argument here. There's a lot of people, and there's going to be some super chats coming, seem to be thinking I'm defending Labour's policy on trans people or the disability payments, despite my very vocal...
No, but you do, Phil, because you say, but it'll be worse under refuck, which of course
it will be worse under them.
Well, that's going to be worse for the trans people who can't afford to leave
not
the
me
country,
saying.
who weren't blessed with an Irish passport.
Again, you're completely changing what I'm saying. I've never said that trans people should vote Labour because it'll be worse. I've specifically, and on this stream you can go back, and I said, I get that they probably won't, and that's on Labour. What I am saying is, if you are also saying that every other marginalised group in this country is not doing any better under Labour, then you are either misinformed or lying, because that's fundamentally not
true. The last super chat said, they said that they haven't felt anything under Labour.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't talking about that person. I'm talking
Labour
about
have done some good things, which I will happily acknowledge. They've done some good things. They haven't told anyone. But they have done some good things. But the shit they've done massively outweighs the good stuff. No. And look, this might all work out in a couple of years' time when the actual election comes up. But at the moment, it's looking very hairy. We have a ridiculous electoral system in which you can win 30% of the vote and win a majority in Parliament.
Yes.
And Nigel Farage knows that. He is backed by international billionaires. He is backed by coniferous slime salesmen, oil oligarchs, all the kind of bad people, the people who make bullets, the people who make guns, the people who make landmines, the companies that make all this horrible shit, the tobacco barons, the drug dealers. This is a concerted effort. And as with Trump, this time last year, when I was saying there's a good chance he'll win, and everyone shouted me down for saying it, my reasoning behind that was because that's what the billionaires wanted. And at the moment, the billionaires seem to want refuck in as our government in this country. And unless Labour pull their thumb out their arse and stop making these stupid, like really ridiculous, unforced errors, then I really do fear for what happens in 2029. Because I'm not as buoyant as I was. I'm like, oh, they got a massive majority. Of course they're going to win in 2029.
Yeah, but there's still a difference between what's actually happening and what's perceived to be happening. So when you say the way it looks at the moment is because Labour's major legislation is still in the House of Commons. Someone has said in the chat, the House of Lords are trying to trip up the Employment Rights Bill. It's still going through Parliament. That is, the first parts of it are being implemented next April. That's been set down now. They will ram it through. The House of Lords have got no right to keep blocking it if ministers turn down some of their amendments, because that same House of Lords allowed the Rwanda bill to go through with zero mandate, whereas what they're trying to trip up are things that were explicitly mentioned in the manifesto. Yeah. So that is going through. So in 2 years' time, in 2027, this is the landscape. Those employment rights boosts are all in place. Those will have had another 2 years of pay increases. We will have 1,000 best start centres. Some people are now suggesting go back with the original sure start centres, which is what they were called in England. But nonetheless, those centres will be in 1,000 of presumably the key battlegrounds between Labour and Reform UK. You're going to have, if they're going to get their housing targets met, it will be fairly obvious at that point that they're on the right trajectory by 2027. And there's been polling recently that says Reform UK voters will absolutely switch to Labour by the millions if they deliver on things like housing and the cost of living.
But if they don't realise.
Yeah, if they
that
don't,
was
they win. They
Labour.
lose. We knew that anyway.
Because what the populists do, and we know this, they blame all the bad things on previous governments. They blame all the bad things that are happening now on the demonised groups and the minorities, right? That's their MO. That is exactly what they do. And you can say, okay, well, Labour's doing this, Labour's doing that. But if this was 10 years ago, Phil, we could be having the same conversation about the upcoming EU referendum. And I could be sitting here going, but the EU built this new stadium in Liverpool, the arena. They built this new arena. They built this. They built that. They did an extension to the airport. They did, there's no way. There's no way we're going to leave to vote the EU because people know that the EU did all this amazing stuff, right? Because they put a little tiny plaque in the corner of this massive building saying,
but it weren't
paid
on your
for
house.
by Objective One funding and a little EU star circle.
It weren't on your house. I mean, my mother-in-law, right? I've probably told you this before. She was massive Labour. Like my wife, when she was first voting, this is illegal by the way, but her mum stood over her to make sure she voted Labour. She's now a massive Tory. The thing that did it, what?
She won the lottery.
No. She bought her council house, Margaret Thatcher, so she credits the Tories with her having her own house. That's huge.
I know loads of people like that. I know loads of people
huge.
like that who wear
so
Labour.
The EU, there's no plaque on someone's house saying the EU bought this house for you.
Yeah.
Instead, it's Thatcher bought this house for you, so they vote for the Conservatives forevermore. And the same thing is, and again, how people
Labour
take to it is another matter.
In the next few years.
But what are people complaining about? They're complaining they don't have decent housing. So if we can boost the amount of decent housing, then you get more people.
There is decent housing, you just can't afford
it. Then those people don't have decent housing.
Yeah.
What they actually have is rats and cockroaches.
Martin Harrow saying the EU rebuilt Liverpool. Yes, Martin, they absolutely
did. They complain they can't get an appointment at the doctor. If you can, never mind. If you can go down in your local area, not into town, down your local area, and not only get an appointment, get a scan and everything you need as well, not have to go to the big hospital. That'll be huge.
Labour need to own this, and I'm inspired by the posters that you see all over London, anything to do with transportation, because they know they have a really good transportation system over there.
Maybe not
they
today.
Always have Mayor of London written on, because it's the office, it's the Mayor of London, and so people are looking at this going, oh well, there's a new overground station here now, I can get into town in 20 minutes when it used to take me 2 hours. That's amazing. Oh, who have I got to thank for this? It says on the bottom of all the posters, opening soon, Mayor of London, so you know exactly who to blame if it fucks up, but also who to praise if it goes well. And Labour all they're doing at the moment is just taking the blame. They're taking the blame for absolutely everything, and they're cocking a bunch of stuff up.
But that's my point.
The disappointment of this knobhead from the Sun, I think it's a huge mistake, and I don't think it's going to win them any.
But you're complaining on the one hand that Labour are bad at comms, and now you're complaining they're going to get someone in who's demonstrably really good at comms. But how can you have it both ways?
I don't think he will be really good at comms. I just...
Okay, so you're saying that, so we'll have to wait and see, because his past record suggests he's bloody good at comms.
What's his past record?
His past record is running a tabloid that's been very, very effective at steering government policies.
For 2 years, and during those 2 years, the readership went down.
Went up.
What, from 2014 to 2016?
You're just focusing on the physical newspaper. They don't operate there. They don't make their money there. They do it online.
Yeah, but it's the Daily Mail that does very well online. The Sun is miles behind.
The Sun are massive online.
It might be better now, but 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's when it was developing. So effectively, he started it.
But was he? I thought he was just the editor of the print version.
I don't know. I thought he actually was the operator, as in the person just in charge of the Sun.
Okay.
I think he was more senior than that. You could check. I mean, I'm not his biographer, but I'm pretty sure he was in charge of all their operations.
I'm pretty sure he's a scumbag.
He might well be a scumbag. He's a tabloid. All of them are.
Yes.
I mean, even if you think about tabloids,
get someone who's in advertising. We don't even know they're scumbags. We don't know them.
They are. They're worse. Saatchi were hardly like Marxists.
Yeah,
they were scumbags.
I know, but they helped the Tory party win 3 elections on the bounce in the 1980s. David Smith, thank you very much for the super chat. Sorry, I haven't got through everyone's super chats here. Electoral reform or their loss is 100% on Labour. I don't think we're going to get electoral reform in this Parliament. I really don't.
Well, you wouldn't need it this Parliament. if you have something in the manifesto for it, for the next one, and some groundwork done to show you mean it, I think that would attract a lot of tactical voting. It was always my suggestion several years ago, before we're in the current climate, that strategically I would understand Labour not promising it for their first term.
Yes.
But
well, they've got their mandate.
Bring it in for a tricky election, because then you'd get, you know, Green supporters, Lib Dem supporters, and others in Labour's key seats saying, okay, we'll lend you our vote for this one thing, because afterwards our parties will do better and can become part of the furniture of British politics.
Chris C has dropped £2 in the Super Chat Fund. Thank you. No, you're number one, Chris. Well, you were. Reeves has ruled out raising taxes on the wealthy.
When? Today?
Well, I think there's a difference there between a wealth tax per se and the stealth taxes that have come in. Like the capital gains tax has gone up, the NI for employers has gone up, not employees, and also the VAT on school fees for private schools as well. So there have been some moves towards getting some money out of these buggers, but it is very difficult in this hyper-mobile world where money can just move about. And we've discussed this loads of times on this channel, but
land tax
we need to be smart about it.
But I can't see anything about this. I'm not sure where it's come from. I'm looking at the latest news on like 3 different newspapers. I can't see any statement from Reeves.
Ivan, thank you so much for the £10, Ivan. That's very kind of you. And and Ivan's like a Labour supporter. Sorry, Phil, but unless you have a form of disability yourself, you will never understand our fear, anxiety, and the fact many have suffered mental health relapses. This is absolutely on Labour.
Oh, again, people are misunderstanding here. Sorry, people are misunderstanding. I'm not saying, if you were... some disabled people, by the way, are doing better under Labour, right? Some Labour wanted to throw under the bus. Trans people, Labour have thrown under the bus. I'm not saying if you're one of those people, suck it up and vote Labour. I've never said that. I've said the opposite. I've actually said I understand from those people's point of view. What I'm saying is there are tens of millions of people who are benefiting from Labour's policies, and I understand that a lot of those people aren't aware of it because of the comms issues. But if you are aware of it and you say that that's not happening, then you are contributing to a narrative that is going to help Reform UK, and Reform UK will not help anyone.
Yeah. But I think that Labour are doing more work than I will ever be able to do at helping refuck. They really are. They're losing loads and loads of votes. On the left, people who would never have voted for Nigel Farage in a million years a few years ago.
They did. They did vote for him a few years ago. Nigel Farage has been very, very good. The thing to understand about that, he's been very, very good at getting left-wing votes, even though he's openly a right-wing party. Yep. There's that huge section of society which has never been served in this country. There's a huge number of people that are left-wing but socially conservative, and there's never been a political party, and there still isn't a political party that caters to them. So they always they were like the Alf Garnets that voted Conservative because they prioritised their social attitudes.
I was going to say economics.
Or they voted.
It wasn't economics.
Or they voted. So you've always had.
By social attitude, you mean like being horrible to other minorities?
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Or not even necessarily that. It can also include the lock 'em up and throw away key brigade. But monocultural. You've got to behave in exactly this narrow way, otherwise you're a demon. You've always had working class Tories. In fact, the reason, Alf Garner, the whole sort of till death us do part in sickness and health type thing was social commentary on class. It was effectively a sitcom about class.
Yeah.
So Alf Garner
all our comedies about class.
Alf Garner represented that working class Tory, right? But then the other people, the ones that prioritise, say, public services and their own workers' rights and stuff like that, would vote Labour. Whereas now, Nigel Farage is alluding to them that they can have their public services and they can have their decent jobs, and they can also have a government that's shitty to everyone, apart from them, of course. Oh, we won't be shitty to you, just everyone else.
Yeah.
So there was always going to be, Reform UK have introduced a completely different dynamic to the whole situation.
So we've got a few more super chats in. We've got Kinky News with €2. I love getting euros. Thank you very much for that, Kinky News. And we've got, see what you've done there. That's very clever. We've also got Tinkinator 40. Sorry, God, I halved you there. 40. Thank you very much for the £10 super chat. It's very kind of you. It's been the same trend for 50 years now. It's just coming to a head. The right wing is disintegrating into demagogy. And the demagogy, isn't it? Demagogy? Is that how you pronounce it? Demagogy?
You're the humanities expert. I'm a scientist.
Demagogy. I'm pretty sure it's demagogy.
I had lecturers at university that used to miss out whole words, never mind letters, when they were writing on the board.
What, you mean? That
they couldn't write for toffee.
Oh, they couldn't write.
Sometimes they would miss out letters in words, sometimes the whole words would be missing.
I rewrote quite a lot of my book when I did the audio book because I couldn't say the words that I'd written out loud.
Oh, right.
Not because they were complicated to say, it's just because some words in a certain combination, you just couldn't say them that way. Well, I couldn't say them that way around. Ivan, Tinkinator, I haven't read your bloody message, have I? It's been the same for 50 years now, just coming to head. The right wing is disintegrating into demagogy. The centralists are defensive of their failure and in denial, and the left wing are nowhere. Yeah.
The left wing keep deciding to back idiots.
Yeah, the left wing are fundamentally selfish. They fundamentally think about, well, I want to think. I mean, so the right wing are just people. People are just fundamentally selfish, but. Working together for a better picture and a better future for everyone is difficult and it's complicated, and I can see why people just take the simple answers. And Corbyn, God bless him, he presents just a blank canvas for those on the left who want to project all of their hopes and dreams onto.
That's because he has no plan.
Because he doesn't say anything. He's never said anything.
Says, what he does.
All of his speeches are just platitudes.
You announce an aim. I want to achieve this objective, and people go, "I like that objective too." So then it's like, okay, so how are you going to achieve it? Give me the step-by-step plan. Oh, I'm just going to do it. Oh, brilliant, great. I thought it might be complicated. Oh, it's easy, you say. Oh, great, brilliant. I'll vote for that.
There was a question earlier, I think it was Fax asking about Labour, whether they got punished electorally for the Iraq War. Not initially. The Iraq War started in 2003, and then they did win an election by a reduced number in 2005.
They significantly reduced. I think they suffered in 2005, but they just got away with it. That's all.
Then 2010, I think people had just had enough. 13 years of any government is long enough. They were kind of running out of ideas. And Gordon
I think the banking
Brown,
crisis may have had something to do with it.
Yeah, Gordon Brown was a great chancellor. I won't have a word said against his position as a chancellor, but as a prime minister of this country, God, it was depressing. He's kind of a depressing guy. He's a Dower Scotsman. He just looks so sad all the time. He's just like,
he was just bad campaigner.
Got really bad news for you.
There was lots of things going wrong though at the time. 2010 was a combination of multiple things. Yes, Labour had been in power at that point at 13 years, but also, you have a deep recession. Yeah. You struggle. I mean, okay, Thatcher got through them, but you're going to struggle as a Labour government.
So people felt the consequences of the climate credit crunch in 2008, didn't they? The people, individuals felt that people were outraged about what was happening in Iraq and the fact we had invaded this country that had nothing to do with 9/11, following America on this daft military adventure. But it didn't affect their daily life. And this is why, last year when we were talking about Labour, when they brought the autumn statement and they said that they were going to raise the cap on bus fares, and I was like, that's a daft thing to do. Like, just leave it at £2, because that's something that people will see in their everyday life. And they might not get a bus every day, but when they do get a bus, they'll be like, oh, hang on, this was cheaper under the Tories. And that's the only connection they're going to make. They're not going to See,
Well,
and that was
so
that was an easy win for me.
that is a problem with, and this is what Biden demonstrated. Although you don't want to read too much into it, it's one case. But the issue with Biden, for example, is a lot of people were better off in America, but people do realise that things are going up in price, even if their income is going up.
Yeah.
Even if they're still managing at the end of the month, they just think, well, this was a lot cheaper then.
Well,
and that's what did for people in America.
This is what poll after poll showed in America, that people were actually better off under Biden than they were under Trump, but they didn't feel it.
Because they focused on those prices. And that's what, again, they need to understand. Now, Labour have shown some signs that they understand. They've explicitly said that they are going to base their economic, Starmer said it in PMQs last year, they're going to base their economic success on do people feel it, which suggests that people will, that Labour will actually not be, that they're not going to go to people, well, of course you're better off, why don't you feel it? They're actually going to go, well, if you don't feel better off, why don't you feel it? Now, at the moment, they're not going to, but in 2 years' time, I mean, this is why there's a real impetus at the moment. And again, there's some things they're still working out. They really do want to, for example, get energy bills down for the next election.
Yeah.
One idea was the zonal pricing, but number 10 kicked that in the head, which I understand why, even though that would have been...
Okay, why can't we uncouple the unit price of energy in this country from the price of the highest, the most expensive commodity, which is gas at the moment because of the invasion of Ukraine? Why can't we do that?
What you could do... So I can offer one speculative, I don't know for certain. Because what you could do is you could say, look, okay, we need a certain amount of gas energy still. We don't want to, but we need it. So we offer gas producers a guarantee. Because what you do is you offer energy companies a guaranteed rate so that they invest, because their investment could be for the next 10, 20, 30 years, right? So it's the same with this nuclear plant we're going to be developing now at Sizewell. Hinkley. So what you'd have to do is to get that investment coming in, you have to offer them a guaranteed price. You will definitely get this price for your electricity. So why not offer different amounts?
Yeah, there's ways of doing it. There's ways of doing it, and Labour really needs to do it, because that, again, like with the bus fares, it's something people will notice in their everyday life. And I think the point you made about your mother-in-law becoming a Tory because she bought her own council house, that I've seen that so many times. When politics affects people individually, it can change their political trajectory.
Yes.
And what Labour have done in their first year, they haven't been able to get their message out, and they've made it so that people who are friends of mine who are trans, friends of mine who are disabled, have felt targeted by Labour, felt literally thrown under the bus. But having said that, Ivan has just been in the chat to say, thank you very much for the super chat, Ivan. Sorry it took a while to get around to it. We, as disabled people, are the judge if we've been thrown under the bus or not.
Yeah, of course.
Nobody else. We're the ones with lived experience.
Precisely. And the same applies to everyone else. All I want people to do is to make sure that they know what their lived experience is. So someone who is vulnerable...
Okay.
What?
What do you mean?
Someone who is vulnerable
how would you not know
and
that?
has been... because there's a load of people already said I don't feel better off, whereas their income has gone up. We've just seen it in America. There were people who were better off under Biden than they are now under Trump.
So, I mean, again, this is... I think it's just a miscommunication of the words lived experience, because experience is incredibly subjective. And you'll look at it objectively and go, but your life has got better. And I think that's falling into the same trap.
Some people's hasn't, though.
Biden did. He kept telling people, your life is better. And they're like, yeah, but I don't feel it.
Yes, exactly.
I'm going to vote for Trump.
But that's the communication side of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how you've got to where Biden went wrong, or where the Democrats went wrong in general, because he never should have been the candidate in the second one anyway, ever.
Jesus.
Where they went wrong is they didn't understand the impact, because they saw inflation as part of the overall equation, but the overall equation was positive, right? When you put it through, the numbers come out positive at the other end.
Yeah.
But they didn't understand that there are some people who just focus on the inflation side of it. So what they should have done, and it would have been really easy for Kamala Harris to do it, surely, is she could have gone into that election. She has just enough, she's part of the Biden administration, but everyone would understand she didn't set economic policy, right? So why didn't she go in and say, I'm going to lower fuel duty? Why didn't she go in and say, we're going to do this thing and then use it to subsidise essentials or reduce some tax? Like, do Americans have sales tax on eggs? Couldn't they literally just be really cynical and just identify the commodities that people were worried about and say, I'm just going to reduce the taxes on them?
Well, the government sales tax, GST, I think they have in America. I think that's state tax. It's not federal tax.
They are different for different taxes, but can they?
Different percentage.
There's no federal tax at all then.
Not on commodities that you buy. And I know that Trump's had a whinge about VAT in Europe, because obviously all American imports have to pay. You have to pay VAT on them. But then you've got to pay VAT on all imports. You've got to pay VAT on stuff that's made in this country. Yes. So it doesn't make much of a difference, really, does it? At the end of the day. So listen, I just want to say to everyone in the chat, thank you for being fairly respectful in the chat. Obviously, this is quite an emotive thing to talk about, and I know that so many of us are disappointed in the way Labour have behaved in the first year of power. We were expecting a lot better from them, and one of the things that we have gone on at length on this channel about has been how bad Labour have been at communicating their wins and, hiding their failures to some extent. But that they seem to have done the absolute opposite up to this point. And I think that this new appointment for the head of comms, I think it's a disaster waiting to happen. I really do, Phil. And I'm glad to be proved wrong.
On his ability to do the job.
I said
you're basing it on a loose connection.
I said that
with an organisation.
I didn't a loose connection. He was a bloody editor. But yeah,
but at a different time.
I was wrong last week because I didn't think that the resident doctors' strike would go ahead. I didn't think Labour would actually allow it to go ahead.
It had nothing to do with Labour. You know what happened there, don't you?
No, tell us before we go.
They actually came to terms. Daggers. So Wes Streeting went because he'd offered them some things, which are some quite things he'd talked about before the election anyway, such as like student loan relief and stuff like that, because he'd already been toying with the idea of, for example, reducing the debts that medical students are in and stuff like that. Because that's a big thing for me. Like, you can say we can't afford to give every student completely free university education. It's like, yeah, but you can afford to do it for some, so why not the ones that we're short of? But anyway, so he came in with some offers and they accepted them. Now, when I say they, what I mean is the people that the BMA had put forward to negotiate. So Wes Streeting walks away thinking, great, we've got a deal. And then the BMA, because they have this attitude, and they said at the time, they said, we're not interested in negotiating. They actually said that. The new head of the BMA has said, we're not interested in negotiating. We want this thing. It's either that or nothing. And so even though the people they had put forward to negotiate with the government had agreed, that person just said no. So, they basically shat on the government by not being honest. I think this BMA. I think the nursing one is a different thing because the nurses haven't really been offered an above inflation. And I think there should be, over the next few years, I do think there should be above inflation pay increases for certain public sector workers, in fact, if not most. And they've been offered, because they've been offered 3.5%, that is the rate of inflation at the moment, isn't it? 3.5%?
Yeah, but they want 29%, Phil.
Yeah, okay. I mean, we're not going to get 29%, but 5 have been really, and I know that the economies, the finances are tight, but would 5, I think we should be able to say the incomes are rising in real terms, particularly for really crucial public sector workers.
Reverend Caffey is saying in the chat, resident doctors got the best deal of anyone last year. They should have waited a couple of years before making a huge demand again. They don't have the public with them now. This is arguable.
No, because they did get that big one. And I know the reason they got that big one is because they had been treated the worst of all of them by the Tories.
Yeah.
But
And then Tinkinator is going to have to be the last super chat, I'm afraid, of the afternoon. Tinkinator 40, thank you very much for the £10 super chat, which is very, very kind. Thank you. I don't think it's just a comms or policy issue. There are deeper social and economic forces at work driving democratic decline globally. It's not hopeless, but it's a long-term crisis to wrestle with. I couldn't agree more. I completely agree with that, because I think this is more than just Labour.
But there is an extent to which a government can't focus too much on that, because, like, for example, we'll talk about the UK economy every now and then. There is no such thing as the UK economy. It doesn't exist. There is a global economy. And one of the problems we have, and again, it comes down to it feeds into the distribution of wealth, is that most of us, like for Graham, myself, and I actually think probably everyone in the chat, there is such a thing as a UK economy, sort of, but it's not really. It's like a little pool in a huge ocean. We can't really swim outside it, but very rich people can. But it's all connected. Like, so we can't. There's no such thing as like rewiring the UK economy, as much as politicians will talk about it. It doesn't exist, because our economy is just a cog in the global economy.
Oh, well, when we were part of the EU, we had a bit more of a pool to swim in, didn't we?
We did, yes.
The billionaires made sure we got rid of that. And in the last 10 years in this country, that the billionaires have doubled their wealth. Doubled their wealth. And now there's 50 people in the UK, 50 individuals who have more money than 50% of that's 35 million people in this country. Just 50 have more.
I mean, this is why, like, from a philosophical point of view, I'm happy with the idea of taxing income. That makes most sense. But the wealth disparities become so great that there's no way of correcting it with just tinkering with different rates. I mean, there should be more, income tax tinkering, I think. But ultimately, there's a lot of money that's just left the economy and needs bringing back.
So what you're saying is,
you do need some sort of wealth tax.
It needs to
be land.
We need to eat the rich. That's what we need to do, right?
You don't need to eat the rich. The rich people are people too.
If
some
you
of them
eat
are all
them,
right.
the money comes out.
Some rich people are even campaigning for the government to tax them more. There are some nice rich people, and even if they're not nice, they don't deserve to be eaten, and they probably would be quite grisly anyway. And Pierre Kaufman would probably need to add a lot of butter and cream to make them palatable. But there's too much money left. We cannot rebalance the economy, global or otherwise, just now by just messing about with income tax, because because our economy, and not just in Britain, but in lots of parts of the world economy has also slowed and is slowing further with Trump. So the amount of income we're going to have is not enough. So there's basically money that's left the system effectively, and it just needs bringing back. We just need to bring it back.
Yeah.
So there's going to have to be some form of wealth tax if we're going to reduce the allure of populism.
Yeah. Tim, that is suggesting that Corbyn call his party the Eat the Rich Party. I think he'll do very well. I might be even tempted to vote for him with that name.
They're throwing out rose petals for the rich.
The problem is
they're lining the path to Downing Street with rose petals for them.
The problem is that when we say the rich, I think that's the wrong term to use, because everyone thinks that they're going to be rich one day. Yeah. And when we say the poor, I think that's the wrong term to use as well, because no one sees themselves as poor. Even people who are living in abject poverty,
well, I don't know,
don't see
themselves as poor. That fellow on 80 grand a year thought he was poor in 2019.
Well, yeah, I mean, unless, deluded lunatics. And so I would rather we talked about taxing the billionaires. There's only 174 of them or something. Let's go after them. Go after them. Them. Yeah. Make them pay. But also corporations, and we don't talk about this enough. There are corporations operating in this country. This is one of them, Google, hi Google Daddy, who don't pay their fair share of tax in this country. When we get paid by Google, where does it come from? Yeah. Does it come from London? No, it comes from Dublin.
They're not going to in the next few years, though, under any circumstances.
Starbucks.
Trump's already happy that we make them pay a packet of jelly beans every year. So honestly, with Trump
Starbucks,
in charge, we're not going to get anywhere on that.
about 10 years ago, there was a big hoo-ha about the fact that Starbucks didn't pay any tax, didn't pay any corporation tax. And so they made this like one-off payment of like 14 million or something, like tiny amount from what they actually earn. And the way they do it, it's just creative accounting. It's creative accounting, Phil.
Yeah, of course it is.
Talking of creative accounting, I got my royalty
know-
check from the BBC. No, not the royalty statement from the BBC for my TV show. I shared this with you, didn't I?
Yeah.
So it always used to
Didn't
come
explain
up.
it.
It always used to
You
come
didn't
up.
explain why.
I made a TV show for the BBC, a year of my life, working every day for a year in some of the most dangerous countries in the world, travelling through 133 countries and 6 territories. I ended up in jail twice, once in the Congo, which was a bit unpleasant. And I never got paid for it. And they said, it's okay, you'll get royalties, right? So every 6 months I get these royalty statements, and they've always come at 0.01 penny, right? Pounds, right? Except this one, which has arrived, which has £144 on it, but it's in brackets. And anyone who knows anything about accounting knows that if it's in brackets, it means you actually owe them money. That you're in debt. So that's not credit. That's debt.
How have you managed that?
I don't know. Just sitting here.
Have you asked them? Have you asked them?
No. There's really no point, because I've asked them in the past, like, am I ever going to see any money from this? And they're like, no. Anyway.
That's like was it BP or something?
Maybe it's
A few years ago,
TV license.
where it's not just that they didn't pay any tax that year. HMRC paid them.
Yeah.
That's some impressive creative
That is
accountancy
creative
there.
accountancy.
They made the tax man pay them.
Yeah. Yeah. So this TV show that I made has been shown in 80 countries around the world, including China and India and Australia and New Zealand and America and Canada, has made no money apparently, Phil. That's incredible.
It's made negative money.
It's made negative money. It made a £144 loss.
Which you're somehow liable for. I don't know how that works.
I don't know how it works either, but there you go. Anyway, right, we read about it in my upcoming book, Stabbed in the Backpack. Anyway, Phil, great talking to you. Lovely having a debate. And like I said, everyone in the comments, your views are respected here, and everyone has a chance to air their opinions on stuff. And obviously, these debates can get a little bit emotive. I understand that, but please try to be respectful to each other. And I've just been reading through the chat and people sort of saying, like, let's be respectful. And we're a good gang, and we are looking out for each other, and we do want a better society one way or another. So let's work on making that a reality. Okay, Phil, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. Thanks to everyone in the chat. Thanks for the super chats. Really, really appreciate it. You keep this channel alive. And speaking of this channel being alive, at 9:30 tonight, I'll be back with the Friday night social. Me and Mike Dix and friends will be here. So please join us for that, and we can all give Mike a big round of applause for his wonderful job filling in for me over the last week. So there you go. Okay, so thanks everyone, and until next time, I'll say give us a like on the way out. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.